Even while you're sitting still, you're racing through space. At the equator, Earth spins at 1,670 kilometers per hour, 1,040 miles per hour. That's jetliner speed minus peanuts and legroom. If the Earth suddenly slammed to a stop for 5 seconds, inertia wouldn't politely stop with it. You'd keep flying forward at that same breakneck pace. In your living room, you'd become a human cannonball. Concrete walls, glass windows, furniture, it wouldn't matter. You're not walking through them, you're smashing through like the world's least triumphant Kool-Aid man. Outdoors, you'd slam into trees or pavement. Inside a car or office chair, no help. Unless you're literally bolted to bedrock, inertia hurls you eastward like a rag doll in a glitchy video game. Gravity would keep you pinned, you wouldn't launch into orbit. Escape velocity is 40,000 kilometers per hour, 25,000 miles per hour, far higher than this. But not reaching space is small comfort when you've just been turned into high-speed confetti. At higher latitudes, like New York or Paris, the speed drops to around 1,200 kilometers per hour, 800 miles per hour, which means you go from instantly fatal to instantly fatal, slightly slower. Humans are the first casualties. But what about everything else? Buildings, plants, animals, even oceans. Would they hold up any better? Momentum doesn't discriminate. Skyscrapers, houses, and bridges are dragged by Earth's spin just like you. The second it stops, their tops try to keep moving while their bases slam to a halt. The result? Steel frames buckle, concrete explodes outward, and towers fold like cheap lawn chairs. Bridges snap, roads tear open, and cozy neighborhoods scatter like Lego sets stomped by a toddler. Animals, birds mid-flight become feathery missiles. Deer, cows, lions, and even your dog get hurled sideways like unwilling projectiles. Insects, though tiny, are still swept into the atmospheric chaos. Disney's circle of life? Cut short mid-chorus. Plants don't do better. Entire rainforests topple as trunks shear and roots rip free. Crops are shredded, topsoil blasted away, and farmland erased before you can say, "Guess we're planting potatoes on Mars." Agriculture becomes an instant memory. And then comes water. Oceans, lakes, and rivers don't politely stay put. They surge forward at jetliner speeds, flattening coastlines. Picture a 1,600 kilometers per hour, 1,000 miles per hour, wall of seawater smashing into cities like Poseidon personally lost his temper. Floods don't just swallow buildings, they erase regions. But this is just the warm-up. The real nightmare begins in the one thing we never think about, the atmosphere. The ground may have stopped, but the air doesn't. Near the equator, the atmosphere keeps tearing ahead at 1,600 kilometers per hour, 1,000 miles per hour. Imagine the fastest hurricane in history multiplied tenfold and stretched across the entire planet. Entire houses rip from their foundations. Cars aren't parked, they're flying east like Hot Wheels on turbo mode. Even reinforced concrete bunkers would be pulverized. Standing outside, you wouldn't get knocked down, you'd be sandblasted into oblivion. The winds don't just shred buildings, they scrape the crust itself. Soil, forests, and entire cities get shredded into a colossal, moving wall of debris. It's as if Earth turned itself into a cosmic blender. And because compressing air generates heat, shock waves would ignite anything flammable. Forests, fuel, even cities ignited in seconds. Earth becomes a demolition service and barbecue joint rolled into one, and all this chaos lasts only 5 seconds. But when Earth's rotation starts again, the atmosphere doesn't smoothly settle. It slams back in the opposite direction, unleashing round 2. Before that encore of destruction, though, there's another disaster waiting: the oceans. What happens when trillions of tons of water suddenly lose their balance? Earth isn't perfectly round. It bulges slightly at the equator because of its spin, and oceans collect there. Stop the spin, and all that extra water suddenly has no reason to stay put. It begins surging toward the poles like a cosmic tidal migration. The result? Mega tsunamis. Not the kind that drown coastlines, but skyscraper-high walls of water bulldozing continents. Singapore, Miami, and Rio, erased. Bangladesh and the Netherlands. gone beneath the waves.
I'm under the water. Please help me. Here too much raining.
Even inland regions, hundreds of kilometers from the ocean, would drown as water sloshed across the planet like a tipped bathtub. And it doesn't stop there. Once Earth's rotation restarts, the water sloshes backward, doubling the destruction. The first tsunami would flatten everything in its path. The second would come roaring back to make sure there's nothing left. Think of it as Poseidon himself, hitting copy-paste on global annihilation. So now, people are cannonballs, cities are rubble, forests toppled, and oceans feral. Surely the ground beneath our feet, the one thing we rely on, would stay steady, right? Spoiler, not a chance. Stopping Earth doesn't just stress people, buildings, and oceans. It dumps strain directly into the crust. Imagine slamming the emergency brake on a semi-truck barreling downhill. Something has to give. The result? Planet-wide earthquakes. Not mild tremors, but continent-splitting quakes that rattle the Richter scale into meaninglessness. Highways crumple like spaghetti, mountains collapse in landslides, and cities vanish into yawning fissures. Imagine the San Andreas Fault, except everywhere at once. Then the volcanoes join the party. Tectonic plates jerk violently, unleashing pressure in eruptions across the globe. Dormant mountains awaken, spewing lava fountains, pyroclastic flows, and ash clouds. Earth suddenly cosplays Mount Doom, but on every continent. Thinking of hiding underground? Bad plan. Bunkers would shake apart like dice in a cup, walls crumbling under seismic shock. The so-called safe zones would be as safe as climbing into a blender mid-cycle. So now people are flung, oceans are unleashed, and the crust itself is tearing open. But there's still another layer of betrayal waiting, the magnetic shield that normally protects us from the sun's deadly rays. Earth's magnetic field is our personal bodyguard, deflecting deadly solar radiation. It's generated by the spinning molten iron core. Halt Earth's spin, and that liquid core sloshes violently, scrambling the dynamo effect. The result? The shield flickers or collapses entirely. Cosmic rays pour through, frying satellites, crippling electronics, and cooking whatever survivors remain. Radiation that normally stays far above would slam straight into the surface. The ozone layer? Punched in the face, accelerating its breakdown. And here's the kicker. Even after Earth resumes spinning, the magnetic field doesn't instantly reboot. It could take years or centuries to stabilize. In the meantime, the surface would be bathed in cosmic radiation. Surviving would mean hiding deep underground, shielded by rock and lead. SPF 50 sunscreen wouldn't cut it. You'd need SPF 50,000 just to step outside for a few minutes. So the winds, oceans, and crust have already destroyed civilization. Now the sun itself joins the apocalypse. And when Earth restarts its spin, the chaos isn't over. It's about to get worse. After 5 seconds of hell, Earth's rotation kicks back on. You'd think that would bring relief, but instead, it unleashes encore destruction. The atmosphere, still racing east, doesn't instantly sync with the surface. It slams back, spawning a second global windstorm in the opposite direction. If the first shredded cities, this one rearranges the rubble. The oceans, already displaced, surge back as well. The first tsunami drowned the coasts. The second roars in to erase whatever debris dared remain. Think of it as nature double-checking its work. The crust, already fractured, lurches violently again. Fresh earthquakes ripple, volcanoes cough up fire, and ash blankets the planet. Even the North and South poles, the so-called safe zones, collapse under seismic waves and ice fractures. By now, Earth doesn't resemble a habitable world. It looks like an alien wasteland, a crime scene with no suspects left alive. Which leaves one last question. If anything crawled out of this wreckage, would Earth still even be livable? Imagine a survivor staggering through the ruins. What kind of world greets them? Not the one you'd want to inherit. The atmosphere would be cloaked in dust and ash, blocking sunlight. Temperatures plunge, agriculture collapses, and starvation follows. Breathing the toxic soup would be nearly impossible. The oceans would be permanently redrawn, new coastlines carved into drowned cities and jagged inland seas. Freshwater sources would be poisoned by salt water, and the water cycle itself would go haywire, unleashing endless storms. With the magnetic field weakened, cosmic and solar radiation would hammer the surface relentlessly. Survivors would need to live underground, shielded by thick layers of rock, rationing whatever scraps they could find. Plants, animals, and soil ecosystems would be destroyed, leaving the food chain shattered. Civilization wouldn't rebuild, it would wither. So would Earth be habitable after this 5-second nightmare? Not even close. Mars, with its cold deserts and thin air, would look like a beachfront resort compared to the wreckage of our once blue planet. And speaking of Mars, what if humanity had to suddenly live there instead?